All right, good evening, and I will call this meeting to order for the Waseca School Board, Monday, January 7th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m., and we are in the Waseca Junior Senior High Performing Arts Center, and this is our annual organizational meeting. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so first item on our agenda will be to welcome new and returning board members. This is from the election this last November. We have our new board member, Grant Sheffert, joining us virtually. Hi, Grant. And then Adita and myself were also elected. So our vice chair is going to administer the ceremonial oath of office.
You don't need to stand, do we?
I don't know, do we want to stand or?
Okay.
No.
All right. So I'm going to, do you want to give that?
Adita has
You've
hers.
got one? Okay.
Yep. No, it's for you. You can hold on to that. Yep.
So I'm going to read the
Okay.
oath.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm going to read the oath, and then you guys are going to read the last
2 paragraphs. Yep.
2 paragraphs separately. So the school board member oath of office. It is an honor that you were elected to guide the education of our community's children. As you recite the oath of office, you assume a tremendous responsibility as a director of our school district with the duties empowered by the Minnesota legislature. The power puts you and other board members of our school board in the position of being both morally and legally responsible for equitable, quality education of every student in the district. In carrying out this responsibility, you will be asked to fulfill the roles of vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy. In providing vision, the board, with extensive participation of the community, envisions the community's educational future and then formulates the goals, defines the outcomes, and sets the course for the public schools. To achieve the vision, the board establishes a structure and creates an environment designed to ensure all students the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. Because as a board, we must be accountable to the community, we must ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children. As board members, we serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students in our community schools to advance the vision of our schools. Furthermore, we must strive to work together with the superintendent and staff to lead the district towards fulfilling the vision we have created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills and knowledge, citizenship, and personal development. So I'll start with Julie, and then go to Adita, and then Grant, if you want to say it last.
All right. Having signed the acceptance of office and oath of office, I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the oath of office. I swear and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of school board member of Independent School District number 829 to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Having signed the acceptance of office and oath of office, I hereby publicly affirm commitment to the oath of office. I swear, affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of the school board member of Independent School District number 829 to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome again.
All right, Grant, you're next.
Having signed the acceptance of office and oath of office, I hereby publicly affirm my commitment to the oath of office. I affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of school board member of Independent School District 829 to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Welcome on board, Grant. All right. All right, so moving on, can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A first and a second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. We'll call for a roll call vote. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
I am yes.
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
and Grant.
Yes.
I forgot to write Katie in my list here. Sorry. All right, so we will continue with the organization of our school board. So tonight, our job is to, we have to elect officers for the year, establish meeting dates, time, location, designate board representatives for our committees, designate our newspaper, our depositories, our school attorney, board member per diem, and other allowance, and establish payment of claims schedule. So this is why it's called our organizational meeting. We do it all at once in the beginning of the year. So for our, we'll begin with the election of officers. So the process for this, we have 4 officers that we elect every year. We have a chair, a vice chair, a clerk, and a treasurer. I am currently the acting chair as the previous year's chair. So the acting chair will ask for nominations. Any board member may nominate any other board member, and nominations do not require a second. Board members may choose to accept or decline a nomination. If no other nominations are immediately received, the acting chair should pause and repeat the call for nominations. The acting chair should again pause and repeat the call for nominations a third time to ensure that any board member wishing to nominate has ample opportunity to do so. After the third call for nominations, if no other nominations are forthcoming, the acting chair should close the nominations for the office. Any motion to reopen nominations can be adopted by just a majority vote. If only one board member is nominated, the chair can declare that candidate elected by acclamation. So we don't have to vote if there's only one nomination. So just to kind of simplify the process. If 2 or more members are nominated for an office, we will conduct a vote, and the candidate with the majority of votes will be elected. Does that all sound what we're planning on? All right. So we'll begin with the office of chair. All of the offices are outlined in, what's the name of the, whatever,
202 board officer.
202 is in our policy 202, so you can, I did try to summarize a little bit what the duties are. The chair, of course, presides at all meetings of the school board, countersigns orders of the treasurer for claims, represents the school board in all actions, and performs all duties a chair usually performs. I also help to set the meeting agenda with the superintendent for each of our meetings, and just kind of general stuff like that. So that's kind of the duties of the chair. All right, so nominations are now in order for the office of chair.
I'll make a motion that Julie Anderson continue as chair.
All right, Julie Anderson has been nominated, and I accept that nomination. Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of chair? Are there any further nominations for the office of chair? Are there any further nominations for the office of chair? If there are no further nominations, nominations for the office of chair are closed. All right. Since Julie Anderson was the only candidate nominated for the office of chair, I hereby declare her elected by acclamation and direct that this be recorded in the minutes. So, all right, well, that was easy. We will move on then to the office of vice chair. Katie Youngberg has served in this position for the last couple of years. Thank you, Katie. The position of vice chair is optional, but Waseca Public Schools has chosen to include this as an officer position. The vice chair shall perform the duties of the chair in the event of the chair's temporary absence. And of course, you do a lot of other things too. Nominations are now in order for the office of vice chair.
I would like to nominate Katie Youngberg to continue to be vice chair.
All right, Katie Youngberg has been nominated. Do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Are there any other nominations for the office of vice chair? Are there any further nominations for the office of vice chair? Are there any further nominations for the office of vice chair? All right, if there are no further nominations, nominations for the office of vice chair are closed. Katie Youngberg is the only candidate nominated for the office of vice chair, and I hereby declare her elected by acclamation and direct this be recorded in the minutes. Next, we have the office of clerk. The clerk performs a number of duties, and these are outlined in our policy. Most notably, the clerk signs contracts, but they do a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Dave Dunn has served in this position for the last couple years. Thank you, Dave. Nominations are now in order for the office of clerk.
I nominate Dave Dunn.
Dave Dunn has been nominated. Do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations for the office of clerk? Are there any further nominations for the office of clerk? Are there any further nominations for the office of clerk? If there are no further nominations, nominations for the office of clerk are closed. Dave Dunn is the only candidate nominated for the office of clerk, and I hereby declare him elected by acclamation and direct that this be recorded in the minutes. All right, and our final officer position is for treasurer. The treasurer performs a number of duties and is assisted by the district office personnel. These are outlined in the policy. The treasurer also serves on the finance committee. So that is, of our committees, that is an important one term. So the treasurer is always one of the members of our finance committee. Scott Demmel has served in this position for the last couple of years. Thank you, Scott. Nominations are now in order for the office of treasurer.
I nominate Scott Demmel.
All right, Scott Demmel is nominated. Do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations for the office of treasurer? Are there any further nominations for the office of treasurer? Are there any further nominations for the office of treasurer? If there are no further nominations, nominations for the office of treasurer are closed. Scott Demmel is the only candidate nominated for the office of treasurer, and I hereby declare him elected by acclamation and direct that this be recorded in the minutes. All right. I saved that as a Google Doc if anyone ever needs this in the future. So, all right, we will move on then to establishing our meeting dates, time, and location for 2021. Caitlin did provide a tentative list of school board meetings. Again, these primarily are the first and third Thursdays of the month. So the first Thursday would be our work session. The third Thursday would be our regular meeting. There's a couple variations, possibly. October would be we meet on the fourth Thursday because of the MEA break. But I don't think there's any other. Anything else? I was thinking
July.
Yes, July. Sometimes in July we don't have a work session. The way that where the 4th of July falls this year, the first Thursday we could have our work session on July 8th, and then I think July 22nd, is that the 4th? It must be the 4th Thursday to accommodate the county fair. So so July is a little different. Does anyone have any objections to the tentative list that we see here? So, okay. And are we good with the 5:30 p.m. meeting time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then our official meeting place is the second floor conference room, but I'm assuming we're going to continue to meet in the Performing Arts Center, if that works with everyone. So we'll continue to meet within the Performing Arts Center until we know it otherwise. So. All right, can I get a motion then to approve approve our meeting dates, time, and location?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second. Any further discussion about this? Grant, does that all sound good to you?
Sounds great.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, then we will call for a vote. Again, this will be a roll call. So when I call your name, just say yes or no. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
I am yes. Katie?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And Grant?
Yes.
All right. Next, we'll move on to our school committees. And I just realized I kind of made my own. I don't know if Caitlin's look a lot different. Can I get a copy of the committee list that Caitlin gave? Oh, I'll just, I know, he's got an extra. All right, so as I talked about in email, we're going to we have our list from last year that we all served on. You can certainly choose to stay on the same committees. I think I counted up like 29 or 30 slots. Of note, Scott Demmel, of course, has to be on the Finance Committee, and then the Continuing Education Committee is kind of just a formality, but the school board chair is the official person on that. But and then the last several years, we've just had we've just had a legislative school board education kind of liaison, so just a person that kind of just reports back to the board on what's going on in the legislature and things. Eric has requested, and I agree, I think it'd make a really nice committee to have a legislative committee. Having been the liaison in the past, I would have appreciated a full committee. I think that would have been really beneficial. And I think if Aaron was here, he would be like, oh yeah, that would have been nice. So if everyone's in agreement, we'll add a committee.
Yeah, it will allow us to advocate more actively in our legislature up to the state capitol, and as well as we know right now there's going to be some significant things happening with with school budgets in the next several years, and the more input and activity we have in that, it's going to serve us well. So
Yep.
Thank you for that adjustment.
Cool. Any other, oh, go ahead.
How often will that one meet, do we know? Is it just
During
as
the
needed?
legislative session, potentially monthly, and then in the fall, maybe bi-monthly.
Yep. All right, so my plan was to just kind of go around and have everyone choose up to 4 committees that they would like to serve on. And it's okay if we end up with more than 3 spots, we can go back a second round and kind of work things out. But since Scott for sure has to be on the Finance Committee, I'm going to let you make your choices first. So,
Oh, wow.
I know.
For me, it would be District Accountability Advisory Committee,
Okay.
Facilities, and Personnel.
All right. Adita, do you want to share your choices?
Yeah, I was thinking to stay with the Community Ed Advisory.
Okay.
Superintendent, I would like to finish the full cycle. And I was thinking maybe Professional Growth and Development Committee and Negotiations. But I'm open. Just those 2 first I would like to keep. And
Cool.
then
All right. Grant, do you want to pipe in with what your preferences are?
Sure. I was probably looking at the legislative, at the policy review, and probably finance.
Do you have a 4th one you want to throw in, or you just want to start with the 3?
I'll start with those 3 and see where the rest is needed.
Sounds good. Dave?
I would like to stay on the Facilities Committee. I would like to stay on the Personnel Committee, possibly move to the Policy Review Committee. And my 4th one, I'll just kind of wait and see how this all
Yep.
plays out.
Sounds good. Charlie?
I've been on the Arena Board of Directors, negotiations, Superintendent Evaluation, and Safety and Insurance.
Okay. Katie?
I like the facilities. And I like the DAC. Was there openings on the finance and the negotiation still?
Yep.
didn't like those.
Okay, and then my choices, I like negotiations still, so I'm just gonna throw it in there, but I can be persuaded otherwise. Legislative, the Personnel Committee, where is it? And DAC. All right. So that was a pretty good first start. So, all right. So we have, we could use one more person on the policy committee, a couple more on insurance and safety, and then at least one more on legislative. And we currently have 4 sitting at negotiations, but we can discuss. So does anyone see any other spot that they want to consider?
Is there, did you say there was an opening on the District Accountability Advisory Committee?
No, that one had,
That's full?
Yeah, that one is full.
Okay.
So which one you have opening?
Policy, insurance and safety. Oh, and legislative.
I would do insurance and safety.
Okay.
I'll do a legislative.
So when you said about the negotiation, we have one extra, I can
step off of that. I've done it before, so if you want to do that.
Madam Chair, one other thing we could consider with negotiations, if I may, is that all of our cycles are on the same year in this particular district. So I might offer that we potentially don't have to have the same 3 people on every single employee group.
True,
So
yeah.
it seemed like we were able to make that work, but if it was not the case, we certainly could do different teams. It's up to you. So.
It could work, yeah. I mean, that would be an option, but if Katie's willing to
Yep.
try something different, so.
I can do that.
Okay, so do you want to stay on policy or
So what ones are open?
oh, I'm sorry. So superintendent evaluation is still open. I guess I missed that one before. Policy and insurance and safety. And I could join the superintendent one.
I can do policy.
Okay.
And I can also, if there's, I can do the safety.
Yeah.
Insurance and safety also, yep.
Do you need more for the
I'm willing to be on
insurance?
the insurance and safety one if there's still a spot there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or did I miss that?
yeah. Dee, do you mind if we have Grant do
No,
that one
that's
instead?
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, Grant, let's do that. Sorry, I keep forgetting when someone's not at the table. I apologize for that. Thank you for
That's
speaking up.
fine. I'll speak up.
I'm
you.
actually, I believe, on 5 then, so if you wanted the insurance and safety, because I think I'm on personnel, right?
I think a couple people will end up on 5, but let's see.
Yeah, I can come
Well,
off if you would like
Let
to.
me read through what I have, and then if anyone wants to make changes, we can keep making changes. So, so for negotiations, we have Adita, Charlie, and Julie. For legislative, we have Grant, Julie, and Charlie. For the arena board, we have Charlie. For community ed advisory council, we have Adita. For insurance and safety, we have Charlie, Scott, and Grant. For policy, we have Grant, Dave, and Katie. For the superintendent evaluation, we have Adita, Charlie, and Julie. For finance committee, we have Scott, Grant, and Katie. For the DAC, we have Scott, Katie, and Julie. For the facilities, we have Scott, Dave, and Katie. For professional growth and development, we have Adita. Continuing education is the chair. And then for the personnel committee, we have Scott, Dave, and Julie. Is that what everyone else pretty much has? So I don't know if you want to, if someone feels like they have too many, we can certainly, we can change things up. But otherwise, if you feel good about it,
I only have 3.
you only have Dave.
No, that might be okay.
Well, but Scott said you have 5, so maybe, would you want to,
I can give one up, yeah.
we'll pick one that you're not serving on a committee with Dave.
Either, I can do either, I can give up DAC or insurance and safety, either one.
Well, you're okay with giving up DAC?
Yeah.
Because that was my fourth.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Joy.
Yep.
Yep.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Yep. All right, so that puts you down to 4 again, so
Yep.
that's good. Adita, you're good. Katie, good. Charlie, happy? No one smiled, so it's hard for me to tell. Dave, you're good? All right. Grant, are you happy with your choices?
Yep, I'm good.
Awesome, and I am satisfied as well. Elizabeth, did you get all that?
We will be good, and I will also go back and review to make sure I have it correct.
Okay, and I have it written down too, so we can all compare notes.
Yeah, I got it too.
Perfect. All right, well, can I get a motion then to approve our 2021 school board representatives for areas of business?
So move.
Second.
A first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie? Yes. Katie?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries unanimous. All right, I have too many pieces of paper up here. Okay. Can I get a motion to designate our official newspaper as the Waseca County News?
So moved.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion to designate our depositories as they are presented?
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? And Elizabeth, I assume these haven't changed?
That's correct. They are the same from last year.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, we'll call for a vote. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion to designate our school attorney as presented?
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And Grant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries unanimous. And then can I get a motion to establish our board member per diem and other allowance?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, first and a second. Any discussion? I did just want to share that Eric and myself kind of independently just kind of looked around at area school districts to see what everyone else does per diem wise, and it's all across the board how everyone does it. But when you look at it annually, we kind of fall right in with everyone else. So, but Eric did suggest that possibly the policy committee might want to look at having a policy about board per diem, and then we wouldn't need to have this be on an agenda item every month. Or every year, I mean. So it could be something that we could call out in more detail in policy. So I'll let the policy committee kind of take a look at that. So, all right. So we had a first and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And Grant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion to approve the payment of claims schedule as presented?
I so move.
Second.
First and a second. And Caitlin is just continuing the list from last year, and then she just plugged Grant into Aaron's spot. So if there's no further discussion, we will call for a vote. Adita?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Julie is yes. Katie?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And Grant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries unanimous. All right, that is the organization of our school board for this year. There's a handful of items that pop up throughout the year, but this is the bulk of organizing. So we'll move on to recognition of visitors. I'm hoping that everyone watching at home is able to hear us now. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. Does anyone know if anyone sent an email before the meeting?
No, not that I was aware of.
Okay. All right, and we don't have anyone in the audience who wishes to speak, so we will move on then to the information items. And Mr. Hudspeth, you have an update for our learning model.
Yeah. Well, good evening. Thanks for taking a few minutes here out of the organizational meeting for a brief update what we have happening in our buildings coming up in the next few weeks. And I want to start by saying that what a celebratory meeting when we organize our school board for the year. We talk about our new members who are returning or joining us and the excellent work you're going to be doing for our students and our community over the next course of your term is much appreciated. And so we have lots to celebrate. We think about our students coming back to school in the next few weeks in our buildings and the excitement there. But we also have to recognize, I just want to take a quick second to know that doesn't happen in a vacuum. So as we see things happening in our national news, as we see things happening in our state news, we know that our role as a school district is to support our families and students and to talk about processes, talk about things that may be happening in our country they have questions and thoughts about. We obviously don't have any particular perspective that as a school district gets any more weight than any other. But I just want to make the community aware and our board aware that, our principals and staff are well aware of what's going on in our country right now and some things with the transition of power, particularly with the presidency, that we may have staff and students that have questions. And so we're prepared to support them and provide information and any sort of things they may need for that support. So I just want our community to know that we're prepared for that. We know what our role is in that. We know what our role is not in that. And so we're prepared to support our community in that area. Mm-hmm. So then we get on to what I think is a little bit more of a celebration, which is what's happening here in the next few weeks with students returning to our school buildings. Currently, what's happening in our county, as many of you are aware, is our case numbers of positive COVID-19 cases are not going down so much as they're stabilizing a little bit in the last few weeks. If you look at us compared to our neighbors, our numbers are still a little higher than our neighbors countywide. But interestingly enough, we were later to rise this fall, so I suspect some of that is just the delay as we then continue to go down. But what do we pay most attention to for the most part is what's local and immediate in our school buildings. And right now, coming out of break, we don't have any positive staff cases of COVID-19, and we have a handful of staff that are still quarantining for exposures that happened either over the break or prior to that, but being ready to, right now, everyone's expected to be back ready to go for next week that we're aware of. And currently we have 4 student positive cases district-wide coming out of the break. So that's a positive thing too, that we hope everyone feels healthy, and only one of them will continue to be in their quarantine period going into next week. We know that we're realistic, that we may not know of every single case or quarantine that happened over the break, but we know we're preparing to come back to school and support those students as they're aware, we are made aware of things. So the exciting thing, and this is something that I think everyone knows about by now, but I want to fill in a little bit of the background around it, is that we're going to begin our hybrid learning again next week, K-12, which means for our kindergarten through 3rd grade students, that will mean Tuesday through Friday in our buildings and maintaining distance learning on Mondays, which is exciting to see. That it will look slightly different for our Hartley students, because in the previous model, which you're aware of, we had the Blue Jay room concept, which meant that they were with a teacher for half the day, and then the other half of the day was with another, either a support teacher or a para or some other opportunity to work on their learning with that regard. More instruction happened there than I think we intended, because our staff is so amazing, but it was still not licensed teacher all day long. Well, that changes next week. And so we're able to move some staff around, do some long-term sub work. And so all of our kindergarten through 3rd grade students next week will be with a licensed teacher throughout the course of their entire school day when they're here Tuesday through Friday, which I think is going to be exciting. Roughly 50 students at Hartley did need to change teachers for this to happen, kindergarten through 3rd grade. Families were notified yesterday from Mr. O'Brien and his team, and as of right now, We've had a few questions about that. Why was my child selected? What's happening here? But Mr. O'Brien and his team has worked through, at Hartley have worked through that, and I'm excited about our students getting back to school next week, 4 days a week for our younger students. Our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders then at WIS will begin with their blue gold model next week, and then we'll be looking at over the next week or so about what those numbers do for students that are on quarantine, staff that might be on quarantine, how are things happening, because beginning the week after that, we do have some flexibility with our capacity based on the most recent executive order from the governor. So we will be looking at how do we get our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders back in the building 4 days a week as well, as soon as we possibly can. We will decide early next week when that'll be, whether it'll be the following week or the week after that, but it will be as soon as we possibly can that we're going to have our students in at WIS 4 days a week with that. What we want to be very conscious of is that coming out of break, the uniqueness about our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, as well as our 7th, 12th graders, is they're already in blue gold groups for next week. And so we won't see that second group of students till Thursday. And so to make the decision for the following week, we don't want it to get tight for parents either. So we'll work at those numbers, and we'll keep the board and the community informed, and we're planning to get them back to 4 days a week as soon as we possibly can. That's the plan. Our 7th through 12th graders will obviously go back, and as I mentioned, in the blue gold model, with a few changes that I think we're going to see. We were able to learn over our distance learning time how we get more students in the school for particular study groups. For our college and the schools and our AP classes are going to be on 4 days a week schedule, I think, if not the first week, within the first few weeks to get them going, because a lot of those students are upperclassmen, can transport themselves to and from school for maybe a particular class throughout the course of the day. So we're going to be looking at increasing those time in schools. And then, quite honestly, we're also going to be looking at brainstorming ways that we can get our 7th through 12th graders in Monday through Thursday. And I don't anticipate that being a very long process from now unless something significantly changes with the virus. Dr. Miller and his team are talking about how they can move students around, how they can work with schedules, how do we manage a lunch schedule when now we have 900 kids there instead of 450. But that's in the conversation. So I want our community to know also that, we have a lot of conversation right now about elementary students. Well, we're also talking about our high school students, about getting them to school 4 days a week. And that'll be a few weeks out, which I think we all understand the reality of that. But we're getting towards those conversations. And 2 days a week next week is going to, in our hybrid model, is going to get us moving in the right direction. Our activities started this week. And so we have students participating in their winter sports and activities, and I'm excited about that. I was pleasantly, not surprised, but I guess I was pleasantly relieved when the competition allowance came out too, that starting on the 14th, students can start competing as well. I think no matter how motivated you can be as an athlete after 2 or 3 weeks of practice, you're going to want to play somebody. And so I'm glad they can do that. That's exciting. And we're following the guidelines. The guidelines for activities seem to change by the day in terms of what's allowable for masks, how many spectators we're going to have. It looks right now like we're going to be able to establish some spectator processes that we can have, I think, up to 150 people in to watch, which for a basketball team is potentially more than 2 per player, which is what we had to do for our fall activities. And so we'll be communicating more in the next week or so how that plays out by what we know. Next Thursday, the 14th, we do begin testing, optional testing for all of our staff. Our staff will get some information early next week about how they sign up for that, a saliva test. It's not required, and as you all are well aware, there's multiple places in the community to get tested. And so I think if a staff member needs to get tested, they're probably not waiting for that Thursday, but it will be an option, and we will have it for folks. We're going to establish windows at each building where staff can come in and do their test if they so choose, and we'll send it in. I think what's important to keep in mind about that test, and I think this is important quite frankly, for the staffing of our buildings, is that if staff have not been exposed and they don't have any symptoms, That's a proactive mitigation strategy, so they can work while they're waiting for those test results to come back. So obviously, if you're have been exposed or you have symptoms, you're kind of on quarantine pending a test result. But that's not the case if you don't have the symptoms and you haven't been exposed. So, if staff chooses to take the proactive test, we're obviously very supportive of that. That's what it's there for. But they don't have to quarantine while they wait if they're healthy. Let's see. Another change for the hybrid model will be our food service. So we will be going back, and we'll send more information out via social media and to our families on this. The pop-up sites are no longer part of the process. We'll go back to our curbside service at our buildings, Mondays and Thursdays for packets of meals, as well as, of course, the students all eat free on the days they're in school with that option as well. I sent an information yesterday in the board packet. One thing that we're looking at right now at our kindergarten through sixth grade, so Hartley and WIS, is the January conferences would usually be the end of January. And what we're looking at is our staff preparing to really provide solid instruction here for these next few weeks. And so what Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Hutmeyer have talked with their teams about is taking those evening conferences and moving those into March. So it becomes a time that they can provide good, meaningful feedback in a conference format in March. Now, that being said, and I mentioned it in the update yesterday, we're communicating with families as much as we ever have right now, not just through conferences. So if there are specific situations where a family member needs a meeting or a student needs support in one way or the other, they're either really doing well or struggling, I mean, we're going to be having those meetings in January. We're not waiting until March to have those conversations. But I feel I'm supportive of that, moving those conferences later into the school year in terms of having that well-prepared, meaningful conference for a family, then trying to do it during a transition time for all of us. It does not impact our student contact days. And so the Friday and Monday that are non-school days, I think it's the 29th of January and February 1st, they would remain non-student days. There's no change there. And then we fill in the time in March with everybody putting in their time as they need to for that. So that's something that if board members have questions or concerns about that, we certainly can talk that through. I think that would be a wise move for the efficiency and, quite frankly, effectiveness of those conferences for families. Talked yesterday with our bus companies. We're obviously starting with transportation next week, moving things along. We are at 50% capacity of our buses for next week while we're in hybrid. You know, one thing that happens the week after that is that executive order kicks in. And so we will be able to increase some of the capacity of our buses somewhat and get more students to school. I would continue to encourage families that if you can transport your own child, I would ask that you try to consider that, because one thing we've learned this fall was there was a handful of, I would call them group quarantines that happened because of students on the bus. And so as much as if we want to make sure we serve every single student who needs transportation, if for some reason your family doesn't need that and you can work around that, not only does it take the risk of exposure for you out of that transportation time, but it also just lowers the risk for everybody by spreading kids out on the bus. More information to come on that. The last thing I would want to share with the board tonight is we've had some information coming through on vaccines, and I'm excited to continue to advocate for educators as moving up on that list in the vaccine list. So what we know right now is that they're currently vaccinating in Group 1A, which they call it, which is first responders, medical personnel, and assisted living staff members. 1B is all essential workers, which does include us, does include educators. So we're in the next group. That being said, all essential workers is a big group, and it's probably several weeks away. And so what we've done as Waseca Public Schools is we've advocated and we've made some phone calls to our legislators, to people who are in the position to make some decisions to move us to the top of the line for several reasons. One of which is that we've been working very hard to have kids in school all year long. And so as much as what's come out in the last month or so has kind of, by guidance, has been a little bit focused on the districts that haven't had kids in school all year long. One of my messages to the vaccine advisory group was, why don't we get a reward to the districts who have been trying all year long? So how about we get in front of the line, potentially in outstate Minnesota, because we've had kids in buildings all year long. And so it shouldn't be just catering to somebody who hasn't had kids at all yet this whole school year. And feedback was accepted on the advisory group to the end of the day today, which I would think from Waseca Public Schools, they're probably in double digits, if not more than that, by staff members, principals, all of us who have contributed our input on that. They meet again on Monday to see when the next place is. The next other thing with vaccines is Waseca County Public Health is an exceptional partner for us, and they know that we are not going to be throwing any doses away. So as they are finishing their first rounds with our current people, if they end a clinic and they have extra doses, they have a list of staff members. In fact, one staff member already got called last night to go in and get their first dose for us. We have a list of staff members for them to call and it's our health staff, our office staff, folks that are working with kids in the health office. So do not, we've said, give us a call. We're going to come in. And then, of course, as we get to the more mass vaccinations, we'll prioritize our staff as we need to. So obviously that's something that's going to be optional for people too, but if people want to be able to get the advantage of the vaccine, we're doing everything in our power to make sure that Waseca Public Schools staff is represented as high on the list as we possibly can. So I'm excited about what's coming up in the next few weeks. I'm feeling optimistic, realistic about, I think we have to continue to be as rational and logical and just factual about it as we can. We have all school year long. I'm proud of the fact that we kept our hybrid model as long as we did into the Thanksgiving holiday. And I'm also proud of the fact that we're not going to need the state to tell us open back up again. We're going to get moving here this spring, this month and into next. And I anticipate in the next 4 to 6 weeks our students are in, hopefully 4 days a week, if not continuing this hybrid model with specific student groups, continuing 4 days a week. Our activities, I know our coaches and our athletes are doing everything in their power to make sure they are able to keep playing. And, if there's one thing I've seen this week in my own kids back in their activities and our students here, as I've seen them before and after school for their practices coming in, ran into some of our athletes at Casey's the other night as we were heading out of town, and it just feels good to be back around other kids, to be back around activities, and so we're going to safely continue to do that. So I'm excited about where the next few weeks will head, countering that with the always realistic understanding that the virus sometimes is in control, and we'll respond when we need to in that regard too. So that's what I have for this evening, pending questions from the board.
Questions or comments? All right, that was very detailed, and I'm excited to see what these next few weeks bring and how we're able to manage everything. So I know there's lots of decisions being made, but it's. Yeah,
I think one advantage that we have is our staffs and communities understanding that we're looking at what's happening locally. And as I mentioned in the very beginning of my report, there's a lot happening on the national level, and the news is obviously overwhelming at times, but we have to make sure that we take care of what's happening here in Waseca and respond accordingly.
Yep. I'll say oddly, as I was watching the news yesterday, I really appreciated parliamentary procedure. I was like, oh, I could do that better. But no, we'll still be a little more casual than that. All right, if there's no further questions then for Mr. Hudspeth, thank you. We don't have any action items tonight that I'm aware of, and nothing's on the agenda. So upcoming events and reminders, our next regular meeting will be Thursday, January 21st at 5:30 p.m. and we'll meet right here. And then this month is the MSBA Leadership Conference, and it will be virtual this year. Is anyone planning to attend? Or I'm planning to at least give it a try. So
I was trying to register, but I didn't have.
We're already registered.
Caitlin registered.
Oh, okay,
yeah, you
good.
should be registered.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you have, I don't think anything's come out yet about like how to log into stuff, has it?
Not that I've seen yet.
Okay,
no.
so,
the magazine.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the magazine came, is all.
did you get like, yeah, the fly, or the booklet, I guess?
I don't know. No.
Otherwise, it's all on MSBA's
Okay,
website
I
too,
will-
so.
I will connect with
And if you
Caitlin,
have
yeah.
troubles, just call Caitlin and.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
So, but some of the sessions look really interesting, and I always like the keynote speakers. I'm looking forward to that. So, but I'm not looking forward to sitting at a computer for 5 hours. But if our kids can do it, I guess I can do it. So, so, any other events or reminders that you guys can think of? All right, then I will make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Second.
And we're just going to say all in favor. Say aye.
Aye.
So we don't have to roll
Aye.
call for that. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Grant.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you.